Tim Kurkjian joins us. A lot of live, local, late breaking going on here. And, of course, Tim got a real pulse on everything going on with ESPN. Joins us here on Big Board Sports in Albany. Good morning, Tim. How are you?
I'm well, fellas. How are you?
We're doing good. I mean, we're just trying to react to what we think is going to be a trade here between the Cubs and the Yankees. Is there any question in your mind that will happen at some point today?
Yeah, there's always a question because it's the trade deadline week, and I've been doing this for way too long, and I have seen things change at the last second so many times, and yet I think this is going to happen. It's a 4-for-1 deal from what I can gather. The Cubs get exactly what they want. They get the back of the bullpen guy who can get a great left-handed hitter out, such as Bryce Harper in a playoff game. Of course, he's the most dominant closer, the hardest throwing pitcher in the major league. So the Cubs, trying to win for the first time in 108 years, get precisely what they need. And yet the Yankees, it appears, are going to get 4 players back in return, including a shortstop named Gleyber Torres, who's 19 years old, big-time prospect, speed and power. Not to mention, it looks like Adam Warren might be involved in this deal, and a couple other young players. So the Yankees have to get younger. They have to get more athletic. They're not going to make the playoffs from what I can see. So to me, this trade makes a lot of sense for both of these teams.
Tim Kurkjian with us from ESPN as we follow the story and the trading deadline coming up. Tim, are they going to make, from a Yankee standpoint, and you are talking to on a station that carries Yankee baseball, a ton of Yankee fans here in Albany, are they going to do more than just Chapman? Do you think they'll blow everything up, or do you think because they have been winning here recently, taking 3 out of 4 against the Orioles, taking 2 out of 3 against San Francisco, that they make the trade for Chapman, but they don't blow this thing up?
I don't think they're going to blow it up, and blowing it up to me would mean trading Andrew Miller, and for the moment, I don't think that's going to happen. But I warn again, this is the trade deadline, and anything can happen this week. If they get overwhelmed for Andrew Miller, then they will trade him, because then they could still have Dellin Betances closing so they still have a top flight closer. But it's clear, at least from the Chapman trade, and I would think from the Miller trade, that they need to get pieces back to help them this year, but even be more of a help for next year and beyond. But the Cubs are not going to give Kyle Schwarber for Andrew Miller. I've been told that consistently. I believe that. But if someone else comes along, and there are other teams out there that need a back of the bullpen guy, and the teams that miss out on Chapman may come after Miller with a huge package, and the Yankees may have to say yes. But for the moment, I don't think they're going to trade Andrew Miller.
Tim, I know things are always iffy when we're talking about prospects, but if the Yankees go out and get Torres, we've been told so long to be excited about Jorge Mateo coming up to play shortstop. Then we've already got Didi Gregorius playing well, and Castro's under team control for a few years. How could these infielders fit into the future of the Yankees when it seems like we got 4 guys for 3 spots?
Yeah, and that seems like too many, and I totally understand that. But I used to cover Earl Weaver in Baltimore, and he used to always say, I would draft 40 shortstops in the draft. That's what I would do, because they're all shortstops, and shortstops can play anywhere. Shortstops can do anything, and Torres is a shortstop, so maybe you could move him to another position. And that doesn't mean that the other guys are going to stay. Maybe they'll have flexibility if Torres is your shortstop of the future. So it just seems to me they are looking to get the best prospect that the Cubs have and then figure it out from there. And from all indications, Torres is that good of a prospect, but he's 19, he's an A-ball, so there's no telling where this will go. But, other trades happen. One deal doesn't mean this is the end of it.
Tim Kurkjian with us from ESPN. Tim, what about the Mets? Do you think they'll make some headlines this week?
Yeah, I think they have to. I mean, we've heard Jonathan Lucroy's name come up as a potential bat that they need, and they might need more than one bat on that team with some of the lineups they've put out there in recent weeks with the injuries that they have. I think they need a bullpen piece. I think that's easier to come by. I don't think they're going to go get a starting pitcher because they certainly have enough of those once everybody gets healthy. But I think if they're going to make the playoffs, they simply cannot count on Syndergaard, Matz, and DeGrom being brilliant every day for the rest of the season. They're going to need some offensive help. Lucroy makes some sense. There are other guys out there that make sense from Josh Reddick on down. But I just don't see that impact hitter, Yoenis Cespedes-like, being out there this year to take the Mets from the worst offensive team in the league last year to the best. They need more than one bat to help them offensively, and they're going to have to do something about their average with runners in scoring position. Otherwise, they're going to have a hard time making the playoffs.
Yeah, let's face it, Tim. They need Cespedes to get rolling here too, right? I mean, that was the key last year. It seems like when he's firing on all cylinders and doing what he can do, and we know what he's capable of doing, that the rest of these players kind of follow right in behind him.
Right, agreed. And I just saw them the other day at Wrigley, and Cespedes couldn't go. They gave him a day off so he could get 2 days in a row so his legs stay as healthy as possible. And quite honestly, he has to be just as good as he was down the stretch last year if they're going to have a chance to make the playoffs.
Tim, we had two great Hall of Famers going into Cooperstown yesterday, and Piazza and Ken Griffey Jr. How about your thoughts on Hall of Fame weekend, and in particular those two players and what they meant to the game and really their popularity? And obviously 50,000 people were in Cooperstown yesterday, so we know how popular they were.
Yeah, and I was in Cooperstown on Saturday, and it was just a joyous atmosphere, as it always is. But I think it was even more so this weekend because of the New York contingent, supporting Piazza. And, of course, Seattle and Cincinnati were represented heavily for Ken Griffey Jr. Jr. is one of the great center fielders of all time, one of the most dynamic players I've ever seen. Willie Mays is the only 500 home run guy with more Gold Gloves than Ken Griffey Jr. And in his prime, he was absolutely breathtaking to watch offensively and defensively. Piazza, and this is the beauty of baseball, wasn't the same graceful athlete that Griffey is, but he is, by any definition, the greatest hitting catcher of all time. For me, after Johnny Bench and Yogi Berra, he's the third greatest catcher ever to play. We cannot forget those dominant offensive seasons that he had with the Dodgers, and when he came to the Mets, he brought a different level of hitting to that club. So, two of the great players that I've ever seen. I'm amazed it took Piazza this long to get in, and I'm amazed Griffey didn't get every vote. He should have been 100% unanimous.
Tim, Yankee fans waiting down the line for Rivera and for Jeter inductions. Huge crowd yesterday. Do you think Rivera and Jeter can top that?
Yeah, I think they can because of what those guys meant to the Yankees, the championship rings that they won, their places in history. I was there for Tony Gwynn and Cal Ripken induction, and I didn't think I could ever see anything bigger than that. And I think when Jeter and Rivera are ready, those are going to be pretty darn good weekends in Cooperstown.
Tim Kurkjian, you got a busy day to follow here, a lot of stuff going on. We appreciate a few minutes here on 104.5 ESPN Radio in Albany.
All right, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Good job there, Tim Kurkjian.